Okay, so I literally started recording and as soon as I started talking about the emotional wheel, it cut out. So we're going to carry on. I was on Pinterest, I just started to say before it really cut out, and there was this, where is it? Yeah, this emotional wheel, sorry, where is it? Yeah, emotional spiral. So you've got expanded and contracted emotions. So I literally just went on this whole spiel already about this emotional wheel, but it was, I can do it again. Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about. And right in the middle, I actually, even though I couldn't find the same image as what I actually wanted initially, there is a particular diagram that shows you that neutrality is between pessimism and contentment. So to hold that neutrality and recognise that neutrality between pessimism and contentment, I think it's just like a really nice place to know how to be, because I started to say how like if you're stuck in all these negative emotions, like we'll reference them in a sec, if you're stuck in this negative emotional state from this bigger trauma and stuff like that initially, and that's kind of the place that you're starting at, it's going to be really hard to find neutrality initially and be able to engage healthily, ongoingly with these positive emotions, because you're going to be like stuck trying to sort of scrape yourself away from the negative ones, just from a place of trauma. Okay, it's not about self-blame, it's about like, obviously it's about holding space and compassion there for saying like, if you are stuck in that place, then it's okay, sort of thing, because obviously trauma, but you know, at the same time, if you're going like, you are at a detriment, do you know what I mean, just initially, because what I started talking about before my phone cut out and I didn't realise was that I think I spoke in a recent podcast of while I was in long periods of time of negative sort of like conditioning experiences, and I sort of go to like short spikes of these like high vibrational experiences. I think this is so common when it comes to people seeking neutrality, actually, because I think naturally the universe will bring you neutrality in life anyway. So regardless of what you're doing, you know what I mean, if you are a really negative person, life will bring you some level of positivity and some level of optimism in some format or another, just because that's the way that the world works on a universe level. So there's that. But I think if you are conditioned actually into negative experiences, so if you're conditioned into hatred and rejection and depression and discouragement and worthlessness, you know, all those sort of like, you know, it's like unconscious, you know, ruminations around these sort of issues. And I'm not talking about from a place of like having a narcissistic personality disorder, having high levels of these things at a baseline, which are not going to be fixed through any level of therapy or anything, and having abusive tendencies from that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone with a healthy level of narcissism that is working from a place of trauma. I spoke recently about, are you dealing with trauma or are you dealing with something that's unchangeable? Do you know what I mean? Your set point. You know, if you've got narcissistic personality disorder, that's not trauma, even though it can be traumatic. And there can be trauma around it, you can have trauma outside of that. That's not something you can heal from, do you know what I mean? That's a baseline set point situation. I'm talking about when you're dealing with trauma here. So like, you can realise when you're coming from places of depression, worry, anger, revenge, hatred, you know what I mean, you can have, and I said sometimes it's just about being conscious of these things to release them from your like somatic body, because your emotional body, because it's an emotional body, when you look at the aura layers and stuff, it's like an emotional body situation where you can have this shit stored, and sometimes it's like not about noticing it, do you know what I mean? If you're not noticing it, then it's just going to be stored. So to notice it, it will help you release it, do you know what I mean? And that's kind of ideally what you want to happen. So when you're stuck sometimes in these negative states of, as I say, I've got something I notice of long periods of time in these like low vibrational spaces, so they can be just ruminative and unconscious around these sort of spaces of, you know, sorrow and guilt and bitterness, and whether it's because it's, you know, trauma for any reason. You can have for whatever reason where you're having to be exposed to people with a lot of this stuff, because as I say, nothing's like a demonic type shit sometimes. When you look at it from a spiritual level, it's like the spirit of anger. It's like it's put onto you. Do you know what I mean? The spirit of revenge is put onto you. Do you know what I mean? When you're interacting with these people, I think sometimes if you can take note more clearly of like, this person will evoke humiliation for me. Well, not necessarily, you may not be humiliated by what they have to say because you may see through their shit, but like, this person might evoke or try to evoke shame within me, or rejection or failure. You know, as I say, sometimes with a narcissist, if they're not skilled in their craft and they're sort of, as I say, going into narcissistic collapse, they probably will not succeed, especially if you are educated on this level to actually be able to inflict their abuse, to be honest. It probably will just get brushed off your back. But if you know it's just it's going to evoke negative, they're going to try and evoke these negative experiences within you, and you may still have this level of anger because of the spirit of anger that you're still potentially being exposed to and that you're still taking in from that. As I say though, you can be conditioned and sabotaged into these really low vibrational energy experiences and thought patterns and stuff. So to the point of like, you're not, you know, and you can seek these really high vibrational, so I say, these really high vibrational experiences into in the expanded level of things like passion. You know, like, it can be unhealthy. Just because you're balancing your vibration does not mean that it's healthy to do so. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of almost like, celebrate the little wins. If you're able to balance your vibration, and that therefore balances your health out. Do you know what I mean? So take that as a little win. But if you're going through, and it's a process. You know what I mean? It's not about self-hatred and, you know, oh, I'm not doing good enough, blah blah. It's like, I've had this trauma and I'm working on this, and like to always hold space for that. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's like, if we're working in these very like low vibrational states, even if it's like on a subconscious level, this was something where when I was doing this whereas all this stuff around abandonment and all that kind of stuff, and just, I don't know, just a lot of your processing, if it's subconscious, it manifests in the universe, but you don't choose it to manifest. Do you know what I mean? You don't ask for it to manifest. You don't manifest it consciously. Do you know what I mean? It just manifests anyway. And yeah, so if you notice all these sort of like these negative things, you can have this, as I say, this sort of ongoing sort of narrative or something going on. You can be engaging in, as I say, you can very much be functioning in your life. You know, you can be functioning as a parent, you can be functioning in work, you can be functioning, you know, you can be doing self-care, you know, engaging in all your relationships and your hobbies and such like that, whatever, and you be in romantic relationships, or you're married or whatever, but you can still have these very low vibrational traumatic experiences which keeps you in a very low vibrational state a lot of the time, and then you can seek these really high vibrational experiences such as you know, even just like unhealthy and toxic relationships, because they bring you a sense of and I think this is something I've done, you know, of what's the word? Where is it? Powerfulness. Narcissists are chronic to be able to be manipulated. I will hold my hands up to say, when necessary, I have felt very powerful in relationships with narcissists because they're so valuable and they've got personality disorders. You know, does that make me a good human? Is that the person that I want to continue to be? No. But it can make you feel very powerful just because you can manipulate them so easily. Do you know what I mean? It's quite easy. So you can see these very high vibrational experiences, but they're not necessarily healthy. So even when you're balancing your emotions, you know, in that sense, you're still not necessarily actually working from the most healthiest place. You know what I mean? Or you can seek service. You know, when people get addicted, and this is so common, so I'm trying to apply this to humanity at large and society and stuff. You know, when you got addicted to service, you know, this is where you get things like work addiction and stuff, where it's like, oh, you know, I can live in this perpetual sense of sorrow and like be depressed every day. But then, just because I'm working really hard at my job, I've got this real high vibrational of like service, and then therefore I'm sort of like balancing myself out. It's not healthy. Do you know what I mean? It's really not healthy whatsoever. So yeah, it's, you know, worthiness. That's even an emotion. It's not massively high on the emotional spectrum, but it's like you can. And I think this is an awful one with. Actually, no, that's a positive emotion. If you're seeking worthiness, that's a positive thing. But I mentioned how when you start to look at all of these emotions and how they are and how they fit in like you can see how from a neutral level you shouldn't be trying to grapple for these things. You should have them implemented into your life at a healthy level. Do you know what I mean? And as I say, it's not about beating on yourself for not being this way, but when you can look logistically, how can I have, like, I'm like, you look at something, empowerment, you know, all these. I don't want to work on choose something that I feel like I've worked on, but like say a lot of these I've worked on, which is quite nice. Cheerfulness, something that maybe I need to work on, just because it's getting into autumn. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to my meditations where I bring my orange energy into my hot space, and I'm getting rid of my autumn blues or whatever that is. But it's like, you know, being, you know, conscious of your of that is going to be. Sorry, what did I pick on? What did I just choose? Well, let me use another one. Organisation. This is definitely something I've got to work on. I mean, I definitely probably do have ADHD, so yeah, maybe that's not the best way to choose. Productiveness, expectation. I mean, expectation. I literally did a video on this. Where did I do this video? I didn't post it because the amount of content I make that I don't post is crazy. But I'll just talk about it now because I didn't post it. I literally just rambled on about this idea of, if like, so people will make unhealthy expectations of you left, right and centre, especially if they're narcissists, to gear you up to fail. So you then may not set healthy expectations of yourself and attainable expectations of yourself, because you can think, oh, if I set expectations of myself, I probably will not get, you know, the desired outcome because I fail at this, that and the other. Or you just may not desire to, but it's actually very, very healthy to set healthy expectations for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you achieve that goal, it's very fulfilling. Do you know what I mean? It's necessary to guide yourself in that way. You're not going to have, yes, you can have a manager which guides your work life, but when it comes to being a human being, you are a manager of your own life. Just because a lot of people do have personality disorders and they are literally just they're living in survival, trying to maintain their ego and stuff, doesn't necessarily mean that it's necessary for you to do that. Do you know what I mean? You want to be in a place where you can integrate these things and notice. You can hold space for yourself as well to say, like, I've seen so many of these things I've definitely worked on. You know, compassion for myself. I've got massive amounts of compassion for myself now, which I never used to have. You know, hold the space. When you do the trauma work, you hold the compassion for yourself. You know, it's not like, oh, me, I win. But I feel like once you start to do the healing work, trust, I've got to work on that still. You know, empowerment, massively. You know, to empower yourself. It is so helpful and necessary, especially if you've gone through lots of power grabbing experiences in the past where you have not felt that empowerment. When you start to heal, that's a massively, I think a lot of this stuff, it's like a triggering experience. If you have positive experiences, so say you do work on your confidence, which is one of these high vibrational emotional situations, you work on your confidence, that will bring you powerfulness to a degree. It will bring you joy, which is another high vibrational experience. It will bring you cheerfulness, potentially. It will bring you being pleased with yourself. Do you know what I mean? A lot of these things do actually work together. It's about holding the space for, yes, I have worked on confidence. Yes, I have worked on my you know, organisation to a degree, and stuff like that, my peace, you know, holding space for that stuff, but to say, oh, you know, certain stuff to do with like learning, you know, a lot of certain stuff, do you know what I mean, victory, I think that means there's a space for me to work on that, do you know what I mean, and to hold space and be like, oh, where is it in life I can fit that in, if you need guidance, because I think once you start to do the work, you can start to see actually just where these things can fit in. Do you know what I mean? More clearly. And there's actually a place for them all to be, I think, naturally, where you would want them to be. And once you start to, and you can look at the low vibrational things of shame and victim mentality and blame and sorrow and all that stuff. I've got too much sorrow going on right now. I'm holding too much space for this toxic person that I've been manipulated by. Do you know what I mean? I'm holding too much sorrow for them, partially for myself, mainly for them. I'm holding too much sorrow right now. Release that. Understand they are toxic. Understand they are chronically going to be abused by people because they are toxic people. Let it go. Do you know what I mean? You can then just get rid of that. Start tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Done. And then that raises your vibration and puts you more in a space of neutrality and able to reside in those high vibrational experiences. Do you know what I mean? Because it's only physics. If you're resonating in a space of fear way too much, you're going to not be able to reach or want to, and that's just the immune system level. Do you know what I mean? You know, your immune system is shutting down. You're going into hypo-arousal at that time. Before my audio cut out, I did start to talk about this hyper and hypo-arousal situation of where like you can have too much energy at one time, so you can go into hyper-arousal, you can go into hypo-arousal, and you have too little, like you can go into like shutdown mode. You want to be in the middle space where you're in this like green, like, resilient space, you know, where you're not, you know, going to that space where you're going to be, you know, hyper-aroused. And I also mentioned before it all shut down was you can, I think when you do the healing, start to hold space to a degree for the people that are like on the narcissistic spectrum or whatever, to see when they are in a hyper-aroused state, obviously to prioritise yourself first. But I think, as I say, the more you heal, the more you can navigate things more healthily, because it's not attainable to go through life in a triggered state. I know very much, I've got the image in my head of where I want to be in terms of being triggered by people and how I don't want to be carrying around resentment. I want to hold compassion to a healthy degree for these people that do struggle with personality disorder problems. Do you know what I mean? I myself hold some level of borderline traits. I know what it's like. It's no picnic. I'm sure when you've got narcissism, it's a hell of a lot worse. Not to say that they're not horrible people. They can be. But it's literally, you know, as simple as, you know, not, it's as simple as just not being in that low vibrational space and noticing, as I say, when someone is in shutdown mode, because you know, I'm sure a lot of narcissists do go into shutdown mode. When they do go into hyper-arousal mode, I'm sure they do go into hyper-arousal mode, because that's often when they can get very, I mean, there's a difference between going into hyper-arousal and just getting very triggered and angry. I mean, it is the same thing. You do want to be able to navigate it there on a level where maybe you're not ongoingly in a ongoing dynamic and what you would call relationship with them, to the point where you are being you know, stuck in this space of sort of having to go on eggshells around them. But as I say, when you are healed and when you are able to navigate yourself and you are more neutral, yes, you are going to be triggered by them, because as much how much healing you have, but it really, it's like as within, so without situation. When you are neutral with yourself and when you are regulated within yourself, as a healthy person, as someone that doesn't struggle with dysregulation problems, you will find, right, that you will find that inevitably you can, you can bring yourself back into the space. You can start to hold compassion, do you know what I mean, for the hyper-arousal that people have and the hyper-arousal that people have, because we're all human beings. It's not about hating narcissists, say, oh, they're the most shittiest people in the world. It's not necessary to, you know, see them as human beings. They've got personality disorder, and it's about being educated there, but it's also not about hating them. When you can hold compassion as necessary, do that. Build the discernment, prioritise yourself 100%, thrive in your own space, that's what's most important. But if you see that the narcissist is hypo-aroused, I've seen many depressed narcissists, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that they haven't got trauma, it doesn't mean they've got mental health problems, stuff like that. They're not in a hyper-arousal state. Hold space for that to a degree, do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm sure I made some. Oh yeah, I will just talk about, because I've literally already talked about this and my audio cut out, but I will just do it again quickly off, just as you can find a space for the positive emotions within your psyche at this time, you can also look at the negative emotions, right, where you will be able to find the spaces that you may be holding too much negative emotion as well. So you can work on that, or make changes, or just release it from the past. Do you know what I mean? So if you've got a lot of hatred for a person, you've got a lot of hatred for a circumstance, whatever, it's easy to see, I think, on a holistic level, when you can see the emotional will, because I feel like to a degree, like a set point situation that everyone should hopefully be. They should be at a level where they're able to navigate that. They should be able to have neutrality, and they should be able to access the high vibrational emotions, and they should be able to access the low vibrational emotions. And you know, if you're holding too much negative emotion, as I said, it's only naturally going to not let you bring your vibration up. And whether it's an unconscious state of pathology or trauma or whatever, it's a negative vibrational state. So yeah, it's worth just looking up. You know, I can always see it now, you know, as like a holding too much of the negative emotion. Do you know what I mean? Because I was to say, on a physics level, it's only going to make sense. You want to hold space and not bypass the negative emotion, but just circumstances. Do you know what I mean? Circumstances and trauma. It's not just trauma. The ongoing circumstances where you can be holding way too much negative emotion in certain areas. I said I got Haitian worry dolls and I have 3 of them, and they genuinely work. Do you know what I mean? Because I struggled with worry so much. I've got, you know, if you've got a lot of like, I'm just trying to find logistic dread towards a certain situation, you know, to be able to see the space of dread, right, and to be like, what is it I'm dreading here? How can I reduce that dread? Do you know what I mean? There's one thing that, like, I really struggle to deal with dread anymore. I can't know. I have something, and I blame it on my ADHD tendencies, but it's probably just because I've been in a sense of dread for so long in the past that I'm just like, if I dread something that much, I feel like it's like anyone. If you dread something that much, you're literally just not going to want to do it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Like negative self-talk, I think, yeah, it's about holding space as well. When you've worked on something, if you've struggled with negative self-talk in the past, or you're much better at dealing with that, hold space for that. Do you know what I mean? If you've got, if you've dealt with self-pity in the past, or like, as I said, you know, and you can also look to where you may have picked that up and hold space for that as well. Because as I said, I don't know if I've mentioned this since I re-recorded this situation that I deleted by accident, or stopped recording by accident. But I used to go into this like space of self-pity when I was like, I'd go from doing something normal and something set me off and it triggered me. So I would just, something would set me off, so I would listen to a sad song, something would happen, I'd just go into this self-pity mode, or this victim mode, which, as I say, if you go through long periods of time being a victim, or actually being victimised, it's normal to feel, right, victimised, okay, in settings where you can you can hold space for that, do you know what I mean? It's normal. But to realise that might not be ongoingly what is the most functional thing for you. Do you see what I mean? So disappointment. Like, this is something where I cut off someone toxic in my life recently. I was like, am I getting myself into this perpetual state of disappointment again and again and again? Are these people, though I have held space for the positive experiences I've had with them in the past, and that is how you cut ties with people, or do you hold the space that you have with them in the past? I always do, as a holistic thing, give them back their energy that they had, bring back the energy that I had, that I lost through a situation, or my energy, take my energy back. You know, and that's how I do it, and hold space for the place that they're in at that time. That they've been in my life at that time. But to understand, if they're going to bring me consistent disappointment, is it necessary to keep them in my life at this time? Do you see what I mean? And now I feel very good about, for the second time, cutting some very toxic people out of my life, and knowing that disappointment is not something I'm going to dread. Do you know what I mean? You know, and also, let's just talk about this as well. I think shame. I feel like when you are wounded, and I'm not just going to be this in this place as well. When you are wounded, right, you can actually act in very shameful ways. Only through things like reactive abuse and stuff. You can actually be ashamed of your actions. You know what I mean? And it is shameful. Also, when you look back in hindsight or whatever, when I got to the space before, when it gets past a certain point, I'm just like, nah, I ain't doing this shit anymore. You know what I mean? So I've been in domestic abuse situations, and I'm like, when it gets to that point where I'm getting triggered, I'm thinking that I ain't getting myself in trouble with the police. I ain't getting all this emotional shit up my arse or act out aggressively. That ain't gonna happen because I'm not going to prison. You know what I mean? That ain't gonna happen. Because anyone could do damage to anyone they want. Do you know what I mean? It's not rocket science. We all know that we can do that. But I ain't going there. Do you know what I mean? I'm not doing it because that's where the police get involved. So that's what I say there. But I would say, you know, if you know that you're going to that space of shame, this is where it's helpful. I'm just only going to say where it's helpful to heal. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes you've got to look at everyone's set point to a degree of, you know, someone's going to hold shame. If they're a narcissist, yeah, and they've got shame in areas, that is, you know, as I say, is it trauma or is it an unchanging personality issue? Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. Is it, you know, you figure that out, and someone's going to have a much higher level of shame if they've got personality disorder versus someone that's not. You know, it's about holding space for that. I've got borderline traits, do you know what I mean? That might evoke shame within myself. I've got to accommodate that as well, do you know what I mean? It's what it is. So, you know, heartache. Oh my god, let's talk about this one. You know, it's really heartbreaking when you're in the past, when you don't see narcissism for what it is. When someone can future fake you, love bomb you for a period of time, it can break your heart. If you are not healed enough at that time, it can be heartbreaking when you like are future faked and like low-key set up to us because like the love bombing, oh, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. When you don't see the patterns and you haven't healed to go to that place where you're like literally breadcrumbed into a situation and then the abuse begins all over again. Do you know what I mean? You're not aware, or you're young, or you're traumatised to the point of not being able to make that discernment, as no child really should, unless if you are just used to this pattern of behaviour, but it may have just worsened. Do you know what I mean? Knowing that you're going into a place of heartache, you know, it's a horrible feeling. And it's just, honestly, I feel like the more I look into this, it's like holding a space for all of your negative emotions, right? It's imperative. Because, you know, because it makes you see and it makes you hold compassion, and it is a space. It's like almost like, think of like a well-being centre, yeah, and you've got these workshops, yoga, this and that, emotional regulation, emotional education. It is honestly therapeutic to do these kind of things and go on Pinterest and see all this shit, because it makes you hold space for your negative places that you will have accumulated this negative vibration in whatever degree. Makes you hold space for the fact of, oh, it wasn't me that actually did this in the first place, but it was someone else. That it inflicted this on me in the first place. You know, and you hold space for that. And sometimes when you just notice it for what it is, you can be like, okay, well, yeah, in the past I have experienced this heartbreak, and to hold space and release that emotion from my somatic body. But to be like, I'm just not going to put myself in this space anymore where I'm going to experience heartache anymore, because it's just not something I'm going to do. Irritation, I feel like, just like, let's use like momentum from these negative experiences. It's like, that's why I actually want to heal and build these boundaries through the trigger states, because it's because of things like irritation. When I'm getting irritated because I've got these lack of boundaries, you know, from these experiences, that having that irritation towards people, that makes me want to, you know, heal, because that's just like a reason, you know. And it's like, oh, because I think it's just difficult. It's uncomfortable to look at these negative emotions. I think you've got to be in the right place. You know what I mean? If you're really struggling with depression, really struggling with something, you know, and regulation to whatever degree, it might not be the best time to it. You can. I think it's always a good time to explore negative emotion, but it's so healing, and it does so much for you. It's just when to look at low vibrational experiences and negative experiences. Sometimes you can just feel like, oh, you know, it's just going to evoke more negativity in my life. Actually, it's just very, very healing sometimes. It's weird how it works like that. So, yeah. And do you know what? This is interesting as well. Of the negative emotions that I'm seeing, a lot of them I feel like can actually be worked on yourself, okay? So I think a lot of the time when you're in codependent environments or in traumatic environments, I mean, and to be fair, a lot of the time you actually can feel like the experiences you have are because of an external force, right? Rather than an internal force. You know, you can have like a lot of shame around a scenario because you are perpetually shamed into things, yeah. But at the same time, you can actually work on a lot of this shit yourself. So it's one thing processing trauma inflicted by other people, but it's like you can actually curb your worry by getting some worry dolls. Do you know what I mean? You can curb your self-doubt by actually journaling what your experiences are, in order to, you know, be like, oh, this is what I'm doubting. Is it necessary to doubt myself in this position, or am I just, you know, not in the best place right now that I shouldn't be doubting myself in? Am I tripping out on this situation? Am I just internalizing a load of shit? Can I actually just be more secure where I am, sort of thing? And you know, failure, that's a massive one as well, which I looked at on a Pinterest board recently. If you have a fear of failure, you can avoid success, yeah. But if you bring yourself success and you allow yourself success, it diminishes your fear of failure. Do you know what I mean? So if you have a sense of failure, it literally can just like completely combat that. If you've got boredom, find stimulation that's only just below the neutrality line. You want to reside around the idea of boredom, apparently, between calm, hopefulness, and boredom. When you know you're just cracking down into boredom, that's when you've just below, like, gone down past the neutrality line, and maybe to think, right, do I want to seek some positive experiences? It's not about staying in the positive all the time. You want to aim for balance. Do you know what I mean? As I said, there is, I don't know whether I've mentioned this again since I've re-recorded this section, but ideally, you would want to be in a space where you are able to manage this shit to a point where you can go to the positives, you can go to the negatives, and you can use the negative spectrum to preserve yourself and to navigate the negative experiences of life. Whereas a lot of the time, as I said, if you come from a place of trauma, you will be stuck in this what's the word? You know, negative state from the baseline. You know, so you really struggle to seek the higher vibrational experiences, and you may just be prone to the more low vibrational experiences just because that's what you're programmed into. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's literally a universal fact. What you are, you attract. So if you've got a lot of shame around a situation, you attract someone with a lot of shame. If you are, you know, in a specific place where you attract more of what you have as well. So if you've got shame around a situation, you're going to subconsciously, even though consciously, if you know you don't want to be in a situation, you're going to attract a situation that accumulates you more shame, because the universe is trying to say to you, hey, look, you've got this shame to work on, so I'm going to accumulate you more shame so you can see that. Do you know what I mean? It's universal truth, just as the opposite of the way that goes around. If you've got high vibrational experiences, you're actually just going to attract more of that experience. maybe it's also about finding the polarity of situations. If you're struggling to get out of this, I feel like I'm a masterclass on managing, masterclass on managing emotions, probably not, but I looked at the emotional wheel recently, and I know about the idea of polarizing emotions, just like you would a colour wheel, do you know what I mean? You've got, your hair's green, you want to dye it red, and then it can go black, do you know what I mean? Or something like that. Like something similar, like along the lines of that, so you want to find neutrality. So, you know, if you've got this like discouragement, I'm not sure. I think you have to look at the emotional wheel, because it's not like the polarity to happiness isn't sadness. It's a bit weird how it all works. It's a bit like, strange. But you want to look on an emotional wheel what the opposite to discouragement is, and you want to navigate it like that. You can polarize your emotion, but I suppose you probably just have to get more educated on the emotional wheel. There's nothing wrong with that, because I suppose it brings emotional intelligence. As I say, you can work a lot of this stuff on your own. You as I say, when you're entrained to lives with around toxic people, you will, on a baseline, look to toxic people to validate you, to heal your wounds that you did not inflict upon yourself. You need to heal the wounds that you did not inflict upon yourself, and also realise that those sorts of people are never going to be able to provide you the experiences that, yes, you should have received as a human being. If they're not able to provide them, they're not able to provide them. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean? You have to get to the place of being able to accept it for what it is. In terms of, this is why it's easy to get stuck in this place of having strings of narcissistic relationships, even though consciously you don't do that shit anymore, even to attract them, because you're stuck in this place of despair from a situation, or stuck in this place of whatever that negative emotion is, worthlessness, humiliation, something like that, and then by default you will attract another narcissist to perpetuate that same emotion. Do you see what I'm trying to say? And that's why you can get stuck in these strings of negative relationships that will not be reciprocal, because I think it's a weird place as well. Narcissistic relationships all over the functional, but it's one of those things where you do want to see that you can, and you should actually. I feel like you do want to heal all of those things entirely, as within, so without, to polarize it, because it can just be like, if you're not used to anything else, and that is a valid place to come from. If you are just stuck in a sense of blame for yourself, blame on yourself, because victim blaming and all that stuff, hold space for it, heal from it, say, I see it for what it is, I see this behaviour for what it is, I will not engage in this victim blaming anymore. So, you can sort of neutralise yourself. And I'm sorry, meditation and stuff, they are so powerful for this sort of stuff to raise your vibration and stuff, but you have to cognitively understand, to one degree or another, I think, when you've got these sort of pathologies around these emotions, to be able to cognitively understand them. Because if you don't, you may well get back into a similar environment. It's not about, keeping it post-it note and putting it on your forehead. Oh, by the way, don't allow self-blame. Don't allow people to blame you for shit that's not your fault. Because usually you can just remember it. I think once you actually do fully heal from these situations to the point where you're not carrying around all this negative emotion, that's when your vibration can start to rise, and that's when I don't think it's about having as little shame as possible. Well, it is logistically on like a human level, but it's always going to be there. That's the reason that emotion is there. There's a reason for shame. They talk about toxic shame, they talk about healthy shame. If you've got a level of healthy shame, you may be talking to that probably shop, which I probably am now, to be fair. I do end up talking to love, but everyone's it. That's probably a level of healthy shame that I need to be paying attention to, do you know what I mean? But as I say, it's literally not necessary to have that, because if you have is a massive one. That is something I've done a massive amount of work on recently. Just because I heard this really good quote recently of grief is displaced love, which is so true, because when you actually allow yourself to grieve, you can have that love from, I don't know where the love comes from, like unconditional love is the highest state of vibration, which you actually is on this planet, which is where you want to be all the time. And it's not about saying on a personal level, I have to love you, I have to love the traits about you, I have to love this and that and the other. No, it's just about being in this vibration. It's not literal and a one-to-one situation. But you can have unconditional love within yourself and your experience with the universe without having on a personal basis to every single aspect of every single person. But to a degree it kind of is, but it's like this sort of like different way. Do you know what I mean? It's not on a personal basis. It's on a personal to yourself basis. In the same way, you probably won't have unconditional love for every aspect of negativity about you. You do to a degree, but it's on a particular level where it makes sense to each individual person. Yes, it moves this energy of love to more of to a different place where you are sort of able to love yourself, and you are able to have love where, like, through the situation, you sort of bring it to the universe and God, whatever, and then you can receive. They say give it to receive it. You understand what you need and grieve not having it. Get rid of the toxic grief of, oh, I had to not have this thing because it was denied of me and I was not allowed to have it, blah, blah, blah. Give that to the universe. That is then restored of whatever you needed, and that's love for yourself, but for the universe. Do you know what I mean? It brings your vibration up. But it's just so powerful. Processing grief is like my favourite thing to do. It's like a hobby. Yeah, so jealousy. Yeah, jealousy. Let's talk about jealousy. Because having jealousy inflict, actions of abuse through jealousy of other people. I think within our system, it's a great deal of jealousy that just happens anyway. But it doesn't change the fact that everyone goes through stages of jealousy. Like, I went through a level of jealousy in my recent past. And it was genuine jealousy. It wasn't like admiration from a distance. Because I think there's a difference. Seeing someone's nice outfit and being like, oh, I like your outfit. Where did you get your outfit from? I want to find a similar outfit. I want a similar bag than that. That's admiration. Jealousy is more like where you're actively envious of what a person has or where they are as a place. So I feel like it's a sensitive situation with jealousy though, because I did a podcast which I haven't yet posted of sort of a level of vanity and what's appropriate for vanity in order to what of that to see as, what's the word? How to navigate that, you know what I mean? In terms of self-esteem, how important it is. It is important, to have self-respect, self-esteem for your image, regardless of anything else, do you know what I mean? It is important. And a lot of people will program you out of that shit in society at large to sell you marketing products and shit. It's not healthy. So I did a whole podcast on that. But to have jealousy for people, or be envious of things, I often believe that if you're jealous of something, it's because you want to attain it, and often you will attain it in due course, or not, as the case may be. But you can often find that if you're someone that's able to have insight, you're able to see that even though you've not got something and you wanted something, it's more something that you wanted that you can't have for a good reason, for a particular reason, and that's okay too. Jealousy is a sensitive topic because this is very like based around self-esteem, and it's based around, if you're like, you're so jealous of me, but the next day they've got what they wanted that you had that they didn't have, and it's like, oh shit, the tables have turned. Do you know what I mean? Which is why I feel like it's never good to be cocky about the fact someone is jealous of you, because it's like, the universe provides to everyone what they want. Do you know what I mean? If someone's jealous of something, it's usually because they want something, that someone has that they don't have. But often they will attain that. If they don't, then they don't for a good reason. And that's for the person to deal with themselves. That's not your fault. And that's another part of the sticky situation with jealousy, is it can sort of evoke, if you're empathic, I wouldn't say guilt, but it's almost like, oh, do I not then like enjoy this thing that someone is jealous of? Do you know what I mean? I've got this new toy. I don't want to bring it back to childhood. Children just are completely different, but I've got this new bag, and someone's jealous of my bag. I don't really like bags. I've got this new outfit, this new top from Urban Outfitters, it's lush. Someone's jealous of my top. Do I not go around and be happy that I bought this top, enjoy wearing my top, feel good about being in my top, because some other person is jealous of it? They want it, or they're jealous of how I look in it, or whatever. How just they're jealous of having that top. They want my top. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, you have to just like be like, that's someone else's burden to bear at this time. If they're jealous, then these are my blessings. Do you know what I mean? Your jealousy doesn't affect my blessings. That is literally the way I see it. Just because you have to just carry on in spite of other people's negativity. And if you don't embrace your blessings because someone else has got something negative to say about it, that's really just going to put you in a negative place. And that's why things like low self-esteem and shit can perpetuate, because I'm actually so glad I had to refilm this audio now, because I probably wouldn't have actually gone for very long talking about this. I'll probably just put it in a different podcast altogether, to be honest, because it was completely different than something I was talking about previously anyway. Probably why the universe just dropped the audio, but anyway. And so also I feel like this idea of perpetuating the negative emotions upon yourself. Do you know what I mean? If you've got this issue within that sorrow, what you have at this time, you attract more of. You will, if you're sad about something, you may well attract other things that also make you sad, because the universe is giving you more of what you have in order to demonstrate to you that you've got this sorrow to work through, basically. And you can notice that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do more stuff that makes me sad. Yes, the weather is shit. Do you know what I mean? I have to work with that. Do you know what I mean? It's not a reason for me to go into this deep sorrow and, oh, woe is me, and, oh, narcissism mode, and about narcissism mode of, oh, woe is me, life is so hard, this and that and the other, and, oh, life will never serve me, and I'm perpetually abused, and blah, 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 blah. It's just not, it's not helpful, is it, for me? So, low self-esteem. Like, narcissist and a damaging person in your life that wants to drag you down. God only knows. I feel like I've just had this like universal transcendence of a self-esteem level where like I just know myself. I just have identity in myself to the point where it's like I probably could. My self-esteem probably could reduce. I don't want to like tempt fate at this time, but it's like my self-esteem to the point where it's like if someone, and honestly, in my recent past few years, self-esteem is the last thing I've actually cared to focus upon, to be honest, even though it is quite important. But self-esteem is important, and someone will perpetuate low self-esteem for you or try and break down your self-esteem. And you can do it to yourself. Do you know what I mean? If someone says, oh, I've seen it happen recently. I was watching Maps, Married at First Sight, and this girl called Holly, weirdly enough, was on there, and she's got 2 children, and she said, oh, my last boyfriend said that he said that I was too fat, or that like no one will find me attractive because I was never going to find someone was never going to find me attractive with the state I looked or something. Okay, this wasn't me, it was just this girl on Mass. But I was like, I'm sorry, you can just tell when that shit kind of shit goes down. It's like, sorry, who are you for a start? You are clearly like your personality score, the way you're saying that is giving 4. Do you know what I mean? It's giving 4. She's clearly not a 4. She's clearly like pushing an 8 here, and you're trying to bring her down so she can, in your head, you can, attain that shit. And I'm sorry, that's just not okay, because she genuinely perpetuated that low self-esteem ongoingly, to the point where it's like she then feels that she, those things that he said about her were true. And it's just not. When you look at it logistically, it is literally clearly a projection. It is clearly a misguided domination thing. Do you know what I mean? It's a neg. It's literally a neg. It's that simple. and it's absolutely appalling. But you can choose to perpetuate that, or you can choose to not perpetuate that. Do you know what I mean? It is a conscious process sometimes. What's the other ones? Helplessness. Let's talk about that one, because it's quite a delicate one as well. It's like a sensitive topic. Obviously, blah blah blah, deep root trauma, lack of autonomy, not given autonomy to do certain things that's necessary for humans to attain in life, can bring you a sense of helplessness. But literally, you can just let's just not use trauma as a baseline for this. Let's just use anything in life of like trying really, really hard at something and not being able to do it or something. You can perpetuate a sense of helplessness, or you can think, no, you can find shit where you have autonomy in it. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like as well, it can come from like really, really, really wanting something. I feel like I've had that in the past, but you really, really want something, but you can't attain it, or you don't attain it for whatever reason. You can then find something, oh, I can have autonomy, I can have this though, and you don't, like, I can succeed in this, and then my feeling of helplessness towards not having wanted this situation is then replaced with something else. I don't feel hopeless in this situation anymore because I'm using my energy geared towards something else to not make me feel hopeless. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, yes, it is hard to work at, but I'm not being funny. When you genuinely look at the emotional notes, there's not that many emotions, there's not that many human emotions, which really leads you to a place to think you can be as screwed up, and it does happen, you can be completely screwed up emotionally and psychologically, just for various reasons, just real toxic pathology, and, that's what they do, they screw you up. So, it's what it is. But there's really not that many human emotions to the point where, like, it can't, on a level, take that long for you to actually neutralise yourself and to process the pathology behind these emotions when you look at them for what they are. I mean, even like charged emotions like hatred, it's like sometimes I feel like you have to have space in a situation to process something fully, and it's to hold space for that, yes. But if you are just like stuck in negative pathology, logistically, there are only so many emotions, and there's only so much, there's only so much work that you can do that's needed to work on this pathology before you're able to sit out a baseline ongoingly of neutrality. Do you know what I mean? And to release this excess negative energy that's weighing you down, that might not be necessary moving forward. So I feel like I've covered the vast majority of them, to be honest. I think a lot of them are just very, very charged, like guilt and anger and all that shit. With the whole of podcast myself now in this, but it is just important to I think register, especially when you're just like trying to process, and like when it's like psychologically, it is very possible to reroute yourself from situations. Like you can be very, very triggered, you can be very, very angry in a situation. I did, just to finish off, actually, I saw this video about managing your triggers. Like if you are triggered about something, if like someone's just giving you the you're just angry about something and it's just triggering you to whatever degree, you can actually just like bring the energy. You can feel where you're sitting, right? Feel the pressure of the seat. Okay, beat your back and on your bum, for example, and you can like stamp your feet on the floor. What I do is just like scrunch my feet up really hard, so like my feeling's going towards my feet rather than my trigger. And then you can sort of allow the trigger to come and go as it is, and then your psychology will like accommodate that trigger, make that boundary. But like, I'm not being funny, triggers can be massive. You can have really, really big triggers, especially if you've had like really, really traumatic experiences. You get really triggering people where they just be difficult and stuff like that, to the point where it's just like, whether you ongoingly can have, I feel like people do continue to get triggered. I think you can set a lot of boundaries through these triggers, and these can defend metaphysically a lot against actually the interactions that people even try to have with you in the first place. But I also think that you probably, like, life will continue to trigger you. Just because you heal doesn't mean that fucking Sally next door is going to start being not an arsehole anymore. It just doesn't happen like that. So, I'd say, I'm going to end the podcast there. Thanks for listening.